Hello, Misfits, and welcome. In this episode, I want to talk all about my process of building and creating a campaign. As with any advice that I give on this channel, take it with a grain of salt. This is what works for me, and this is what I have done, but it might not work for you, or you might have a process that you find that's better suited to you. Just take what you want from this video and what advice speaks to you, and ignore the rest. So my process of building a campaign, I also use this when I'm creating one-shots and story arcs and quest lines and things like that. We don't necessarily go in order, starting at the beginning, going through to the end. We're going to kind of jump around just a little bit, but these are the points that I use, the things that I hit when I'm creating my campaign, and I do this pretty consistently, and it's always worked for me. First, we're going to try and kind of narrow our gaze and try to narrow our focus to an easier place to start. Because when you're trying to build a campaign, that's one of the toughest things, knowing where to start. So we're going to try to do some things first to help us kind of figure out where that is. So number one, the very first thing that I typically do is I pick a theme. I try to keep this on the broader side. I don't want it to be super specific, but I will pick a theme, and then from there on out, when I'm making my decisions and building out my world and my campaign, I always think about that theme that I chose and try to keep that in the back of my mind when I make my decisions down the road. I think having this overarching theme that carries throughout the story is going to create a much more consistent campaign and story. It's going to feel like a sort of an ongoing story. It's not going to feel disjointed. We've got that sort of theme connecting everything together. When I look at my current campaign and my past homebrew campaign, I can use those sort of as examples. In campaign 1, without getting like too spoilery or anything like that, I wanted this sort of that sort of absolute fantasy kind of stereotypical experience. So my themes were very broad. They were good versus evil, was kind of number 1. And then my other theme, I kind of wanted to make sure I could put my own twist on things, so I picked looks can be deceiving. And I use those two themes throughout when making my decisions and setting up my story arcs and things like that. So when I look at my current campaign that's running, I have more than one theme going on, but the main one, the most important one, was that I just wanted it to be sort of nautical themed. And so it's a nautical themed campaign, and I've used that thought and that decision sort of help me make all the other decisions in the campaign creation process. So start with a theme. So for number 2, I go ahead and I pick my big bad, like my ultimate behind the scenes, behind everything villain. I do that next. I like to know where things are going. I like to know who my villain is so I can tease them throughout. And also, picking your big bad kind of at the start can help you figure out just how many levels you want this campaign to go through. Because you're going to need to sit down and kind of figure out how high a level they need to be to survive that encounter. Looking at my first homebrew campaign, campaign 1 here on the channel, and this isn't a spoiler because it's covered in that recap before the first recorded episode, but that ultimate big bad is Tiamat. So I made that decision and kind of figured out how high a level they would need to be to survive. So that campaign goes from level 1 to, I think they end at level 15. I am not going to say who the big bad is of the current campaign that's running, because that has not been revealed yet, so I'll keep that to myself. But I think it's good to kind of know where things are going, and knowing what level they're going to need to end at will sort of help you pace things and figure out where that story is going to need to level up and things like that. Also, when you're picking your big bad, you can pick more than one. You're going to have more than one bad guy in your story. So you can go ahead and pick several of those out just to sort of get an idea of where things are headed and where you might want to space out some of these villains. There might be some that they need to overcome earlier in the story and some that you want them to not really face off against until the end. So keep that in mind, and also keep that theme in mind that you picked, or themes, and just reference that with these decisions. Number 3, this is where I typically sit down and finally pick my setting. Again, this can be kind of broad if you want, or you can make it really, really specific. If you look at Lost Mines of Phandelver, that setting is just in and around Phandalin. Curse of Strahd, Barovia. My first campaign, that I just picked my world, the whole world of Aurelia that I created. My current campaign, that's all set in and around the archipelago of Kadath. So try to pick that setting, and if you're having trouble deciding the setting, remember the big bad that you picked. If you picked a particular type of monster, then you might want to pick a setting that's appropriate for that monster. Those kinds of things. Also remember that theme. You know, if I pick a nautical theme and then I set my campaign in the middle of a desert, that doesn't make much sense. And now we're starting to feel disjointed and like we haven't thought this through. So always reference the decisions that you have made prior as you move through this list, if that makes sense. Okay, now that we have made those big decisions, theme, villain, setting, now we go all the way back and we start looking at telling the story from the beginning, moving towards the end. So we've kind of figured out sort of the broad strokes and where we want things to end up. Now we're going to go back to the very beginning and figure out where to start the story. And this might seem daunting, but really we just got to keep things super simple. So what you need to do first is just pick a simple problem that needs solving. This can be anything, but I emphasize the word simple. This could be traveling from point A to point B. We're just trying to get to this town. It could be we just need to deliver this object to this place. We just need to go and meet this person or attend this event. Pick something really, really simple, especially if you're starting at like a low level. You don't really need to start with a super, super complex problem if everybody's starting at level 1. Would you take your level 1 players and throw them into the midst of a war council filled with political intrigue? Maybe, but probably not. So pick a simple problem that needs solving. Keep in mind that this is probably going to be the thing that's going to pull your party together, or might be where they meet each other. They're all hired to take a thing to a place, or they're all traveling to the same destination and using the same means of travel. Keep that in mind. This is where your story is starting. Keep it simple. Very simple. Number 5. This is where things get fun. We take that simple problem that needs solving, and we're going to find out how to complicate it, pretty much in almost every way possible. They're traveling from point A to point B. Well, what if they deal with a storm? What if they are set upon by bandits? What if they're ambushed? What if their carriage breaks? Their ship sinks? Find ways to complicate the solution. We don't want them to solve this problem the way they expect to. We want them to think, all right, this is easy. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do this, 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 and it's going to be done. We want to subvert all those expectations. We want to take all their plans and toss them out the window so that they have to think on their feet and they get pulled into something that they weren't expecting. That is the goal. So plans going awry are what get people interested and engaged. So that's why we want to complicate this solution. Also, keep in mind that these problems can have multiple solutions, so you might have to do a little mental gymnastics to think of these different ways in which your players might solve the problem, just to be prepared for that. Though I will let you know right now, players are always going to surprise you, so keep that in mind. It's never gonna go according to plan, for them or for you. just bear that in mind. Be ready for that now. So, number 4 was simple problem. Number 5, complicating the solution. And I also like for these complications to then lead to more problems that need solving. This is kind of what's going to jump start you into the next part of the story. And if you look back at my campaigns that I've run and I am running, this is pretty much exactly what I do. For the first campaign, they all start traveling to a town. They're all traveling to the town of Wexland via airship, and that's where they meet. Simple enough, they just gotta ride the ship to the next place. Well, they're attacked by pirates, sky pirates, mid-flight, and so that's complicated a thing. The pirates are looking for someone, so they have to protect that person, and then they get hired because they impressed somebody with their fighting skills, and that leads to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Basically, that first problem and that first complication is the first domino falling. And now you just copy and paste that over and over and over again. We came up with the first problem. We came up with ways to complicate it. They figure out how to solve it. And that leads to the next problem that you present them and the ways in which you complicate it. And then they have to get creative with their solution. So this just sort of repeats over and over and over again, and then you sort of build them up and make them more complicated or make the threats higher and greater over and over and over again until you kind of reach your final conclusion. Then your story's over. I mean, really, most campaigns are just a string of problems that they're trying to solve and the roadblocks they run into along the way. Alright guys, and that's pretty much all I've got to say. As always, if you enjoy this content and if you found this useful or helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe. Throw a comment down below talking about maybe your own process of creating a campaign or maybe some other videos that you would like to see on this channel. All of that is really, really, really helpful. And I will see you again next time. Okay, so I guess this will be my end tag here. I did a thing, and I'm excited about it, but I'm a little nervous about it. I did a thing. I ordered a sword. I bought a sword. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but I bought it. A rapier, to be exact. I'm really excited about it. My very first character was a rogue, and she had a rapier, and so I've always been a little bit partial to that. But I'm nervous because I have a feeling that this is gonna be like the first of many absurd, like, purchases. Gosh, I bought a sword. I did that. It's fine. It's all fine. Look, some people buy swords and weapons, and that's cool. And I'll put it somewhere. Maybe I'll, like, hang it, or mount it or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But, I did a thing.